Good morning, CodgerBiker here, and trying out an Insta360 One R, bit of a mouthful. Can it replace my GoPro? Going through the usual city routes. So yeah, this is the Insta360 One R.
This is a look at using the Insta360 One R as a GoPro style motorcycle vlogging camera rather than with the 360 lens. Is this a camera I can use for the job, or shall I just use it as a 360 camera? Of course, I'm used to using a GoPro like many people. So how hard would it be to adapt to the 4K lens version of the One R? Though in reality I got this for its 360 degree functionality, but that video will follow. This is a video made purely from a motorcyclist vlogger's perspective. For other uses, much of this may not be applicable. It's quite a specialised thing. The GoPro tends to do this well, freezing apart.
For somebody who's used several cameras over the years, I'm quite used to what I expect to happen when I go out motovlogging. One thing you don't want with a camera is to be distracted. You want to forget it's there. The usual setup, GoPro Hero 7 with the audio adapter, and I've mounted all that in a case.
Placing them side by side like you can see that the GoPro's thicker.
To get the audio, which is the part which motorcycle vlogging is the hardest thing to achieve, you can get which I have got, a USB-C to audio adapter which just plugs in the side. I got the Insta360 one. I'm guessing that there are other versions of it available, but I just bought the proper one. Compared to the 50 quid for the GoPro, this one was a lot cheaper and a lot easier. Negatives are, it looks a bit flimsy because it pokes out of the camera, whereas you can kind of twist the GoPro version round and get it to hold itself in. Also, on the GoPro you can take the door off, and I don't think the door comes off on this one, so you have to leave it on. But I only use very, very cheap microphones. I've tried all sorts of microphones. I've tried expensive lavalier microphones. I've tried the Rode microphone, but none of them seems to be any better than the cheap microphones I get off eBay. And that's not that they're better microphones or worse microphones. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for this particular audio recording situation, it's quite unique really to stick something in a crash helmet going up to 100 miles an hour with the visor open or closed. I generally ride with the visor open, so there's a limitation really to how good you can get the audio in the raw. You can edit it afterwards, or you can use an external recorder, but realistically you want to make the video and spend as little time as possible editing. I reckon for every minute of footage that I put out, I spend 2 hours editing it, and I'm not particular. I'm quite sort of shoot and post, but even so, you know, it has to be reasonably watchable, even for me. So anything that can speed up the process, such as getting an adequate audio in the first place, is you know, it's a bottom line thing really. So I've got the same microphone that I usually have on my GoPro. I'm going on the same roads that I usually go with on my GoPro, but I'm using the One R in 4K mode with its own USB-C adapter, and we'll just see what we shall see.
I left the camera recording in 2.7K, which is my usual format, and it was still recording after 90 minutes. That's very good, I think. Not so good was I found it had locked itself in vertical mode, like a mobile phone, so I've had to rotate this footage, which has degraded it. I've had a couple of issues with the gyro. There is a calibrate feature. I think removing the battery resets the camera and it's a bit of a nuisance. Maybe firmware updates in the future will fix this. Anyway, this video is rotated and slightly zoomed in, so it's not as good as it should be. Of course you'd learn this if you used it all the time and lock the perspective. But this is a first go video and that's what happened.
The GoPro Hero 7 I have set to default to video, and it doesn't make any difference whether you take the batteries in or out. When you change the battery it stays in video, and I generally shoot into 2.7K, which is what I'm shooting in today for a direct comparison. I mean all the cameras will go up to 4K. This doesn't appear to have, and I'm quite happy for everyone to let me a comment saying, no, you're stupid, you're doing it wrong, you never read the instructions. Well, I did read the instructions as best I could, and I have got the latest firmware, but I couldn't find any instant record. You can press the red button to instantly turn the camera on, but you have to press it again for record. But what happens is if you've changed the battery, as I did this morning, it defaults, or appears to default, to photography mode. So then you have to fiddle about with it to put it into video mode. And the screen is tiny. For those of us who are challenged, I'm long-sighted, the screen is too small to use without glasses. But so long as you don't take the battery off, it seems to stay where it is, in which case it's just two presses. One press to turn the camera on, and one press to get it recording. And you'll know you're recording a video because there are two red LEDs, and one of them, really usefully, I can see out of my crash helmet from my view, so I know that it's recording video now. I will keep rambling on, if only to give you a sample of audio. So this is me with the visor open. I'll put the visor down. This is me with the visor down so that you can see the difference. I will ride for 10 minutes or so with the visor down now. I'm just like a dog really. I like to be out in the open air, which is the whole appeal of motorcycling to me. I don't really like being behind a visor, so generally I have the visor open, and my other helmets have drop down sun visors, which are great. This helmet doesn't, so sunglasses are usually the order of the day, but I forgot them today. Now, there is one feature of this camera, and of the GoPro really, which I don't understand as a motorcycle vlogger why it's not enabled, which is it would be nice to have a Bluetooth microphone in the helmet and then have the camera itself pick up that audio. It's well capable of dealing with that data stream because you do so when you're using the app. So it would be nice to have, you know, no microphone input on the front, and I don't mean the receiver unit for a Bluetooth microphone plugged in. I think they should just have the camera itself able to accept audio from any Bluetooth microphone direct. That way you could remain waterproof. One thing that is a little bit annoying is if you are using 360 mode, or if you're using the stabilization, I forget what it's called, I'll put it in over the top, the sort of hyper stabilization this camera can do. It doesn't record it in a straight MP4 video format. It looks like I'll have to take the files off the camera, process them in another program, and then export them and then use those in DaVinci before I make my final version of the video. Just annoying. Obviously for 360 that's essential because you've got to set up your shots and the views that goes with it, but to have the stabilization feature on this camera, I think there's a basic stabilization it will do MP4 in, but to have the sort of super stable, super flow state I think it's called, to have the super flow state, it records in a different format.
It saves a huge file at the end, and this takes a while, unlike the GoPro which breaks up the files, and smaller files are easy to manipulate. I suspect you would need a hefty PC before you buy this camera to edit the footage, though of course the app would be in your phone for most people.
Just wanted to get enough for a 4K video comparison. I didn't buy this camera for the 4K. You may have noticed one or two 360 shots creeping into the latest videos, and that's really why I bought this camera.
So, as a standing camera, yes, I'd use this in place of my GoPro. But if you have a GoPro already, no, use this camera for the 360. And I'll see how I get on with that in a future video.
Oh, on that, I'd like to say good day to you. Stay well. CodgerBiker is out.